Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow Podcast. This is episode number 4.
I've made personal connections with every single one of these sellers. I've spent 6 months, 9 months, a year. It took me a year to buy this 10-unit apartment building. Of talking with the seller, having conversations, going and meeting them in person. Like, now all of a sudden, they're not just selling to some guy. They're selling to Patrick and Danielle.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow Podcast. I can't believe it. We're already on episode 4 right now. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening and showing your support. Really means a lot. And, it's big step outside my comfort zone. But you know what? I've been learning a lot. I've been loving it. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Today, we have a great guest. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of it. So this guest has recently grown pretty much in the past 3 years from 0 to 7,500 in cash flow from their rental properties. Right now, I think currently they have 17 because they just sold off a single family. But in 3 years, they got to 17 units and 7,500 in cash flow, which is amazing. This guest actually got to quit his job and focus on real estate investing full time. So I think that's just shows the power of real estate right there. I think you're going to get a lot of value. He goes into this one tactic that I think myself I learned. I had no idea you could do this, and I'm going to definitely implement in my business. So basically, it's called seller carryback, where if you go to a commercial banker and you go to a commercial banker and you get the 20, you have to put down 25% down. You can ask the seller to do a seller carryback or seller finance, and that lessens your down payment on a rental property. So he goes into detail. We'll get into that. He gives us, examples of that, and we take a deep dive into one of his properties. It's just awesome. He's growing at such a fast pace, and he has 6 under contract right now. And next year he has huge goals. And I just think that if you're listening to this and you're wanting to scale fast and you're wanting to take the next step, and 2022 is going to be your year, I think this is going to be a great person to listen to. So with all that being said, let's get right into it. Just want to tell you real quick that all the show links, all the show notes and everything will be attached, so you can look into that. You can see all our social media for the Chasing Cashflow Podcast. And if you or someone you know that you want on the podcast, you want to hear them, or you just have anything to say about any critique of the podcast, I would love that. I would love to hear from as many people as possible. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow Podcast. Today we have a great guest in Patrick McGrath. He is in the Maryland market just like myself. How are you doing today, Patrick?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How was your Christmas and how was your holidays?
Oh, man, everything was great. Spent some time with my family, spent some time with the wife's family, did a little friends and family action. So presents, not presents. That's what I like to say.
There you go. Well, I'm excited to have you on. You've grown in the past year or so extremely. You've gone from, getting a 10 unit, getting all these properties. I'm super excited to dive into that. But first off, why don't we start off in the beginning? How did you even get into real estate to begin with?
Yeah, great question. So like a lot of people, I always noticed when I was, younger, 18, 19, 20, seeing successful people that own real estate. You got Donald Trump, you got all these guys out there, and I'm like, man, the one thing that everybody had in common was they all owned real estate. So that kind of got me interested in everything. And then I downloaded Rich Dad Poor Dad, and started listening to that, and I was just like, wow, the power of real estate and passive income is massive. So for the next couple of years, I just started listening to Bigger Pockets. I mean, this is back when they first started. I mean, I can remember when it was like in Josh's house in their living room, like episode 5, and just started consuming everything, reading books, Hold, by I think it's Danny Keller, and just so many books. I just consumed so much info because I didn't have any money to do anything. That's all I could do. I was like, well, if I can't invest now, I might as well invest in myself. So when the time comes when I have some money, like I'm ready to go. And that's pretty much what I did. The last couple years, I kept getting better sales jobs with commission, making a little bit more money, and that gave us enough money to buy our first house. And that's kind of how it really all started. We bought our first single family, my wife and I, back in 2013 as a foreclosure, with the intention the entire time to always turn it into a rental at some point. Like, that was the goal. Like, for right now, let me at least get a house, but at some point I'm going to buy another one, and this one's going to be a rental. And that's really how it all started. I bought a foreclosure and fixed it up, and that was kind of the first real estate deal.
Yeah, I think it's important to note right now that you said that you couldn't take action at the time, but that didn't stop you from, doing your research, doing everything you need in order to prepare and learn for when that time does come to take action. And I think that's important for the listeners. Just because you don't have money right now, because usually money's the biggest reason why you don't get into real estate. You have partnerships, and you just learn as much as you can, take in as much as you can, so that when that time does come, you can take action, just like you did. When you bought that first foreclosure, how old were you?
I believe I was 26. So, yeah, 26, 2013, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. And then your next real estate deal, when did it happen next?
So that didn't happen until 2017. So basically 4 years later. But during that time, while we had the house, we were fixing it up, changing out different things over 2 or 3 years. And I'd been actively looking. This is during the time when there was foreclosures everywhere. Like, it was just foreclosure heaven. So during that whole time, I was actively going and looking at properties. And what we did was we took out a home equity line of credit on our primary residence. We paid like $195 for it, and we were able to get a $45,000 home equity line of credit. And I found a property 10 houses down from me on the same street that needed a ton of work. And the thing is, I'd been looking and looking and looking, and I knew it was a good deal. Like, I knew it for sure. And I've been trying to get my dad to invest with me for probably 2 or 3 years. And I went to him and basically said, "Hey, Dad, I want you to come and look at this property. I'm going to buy it. I just want your opinion on it." And we walked around the house and everything, and he's asking me a million questions, this and that. And we walked outside, and he says, "I think it's a good deal too. You can buy this all by yourself." And I said, "Yes, sir. I've got the money. I had everything lined up to be able to do it on my own." And he said, "All right, well, I want to go in 50-50 with you on this." And That's pretty much how it started, and how my dad became, a partner in our business now, is because, he was just waiting for me to be able to do it by myself, to really show that this is something that I want to do. And that kind of happened. So we bought that in 2017 for $175,000. Me, my wife, and my dad worked for 8 months. I'm talking nights, weekends, like almost every single day, doing everything, changing out the cabinets, tiling the bathroom. I learned how to tile, backsplash, just painting. Every single thing you could possibly imagine. We changed in this house, put a new roof on. Like, we spent about $30,000 on that. And 6 months later, it appraised for $289,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane. First, can you go into real quick, in case listeners don't know, HELOC and what a HELOC is? And then also, how did you learn how to do everything? Did you go to YouTube University, or did your father have experience with working and kind of taught you that? And then also, just want to know, anyone in your family ever invest before, or were you kind of the first one to get into it?
Awesome. All great questions. So A HELOC is a home equity line of credit. So basically what that is that's taking out almost a loan, but technically it's a line of credit on the equity in your property up to a certain value. So we were able to get I think at the time they were doing like 90% loan to value. So we were able to get a $45,000 line of credit. And what you're able to do is you're able to use that line of credit for 10 years. So anytime you take out money, you pay it back, you can use it. And then at that 10-year mark, it then the line of credit stops, and then you have 10 years to pay it back. So that's what we did on that. Your second question, YouTube University. Did use YouTube quite a bit, but my dad was also really handy. He was the type of guy that would always work on his own cars. He did construction when he was younger, and, had the skills and was able to do things like teach me how to change out outlets and fans and, how to tile and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of lucked out with that one, fairly well. But I mean, we hired out some stuff. Like we hired out the roof. Yeah. Like I'm not doing a roof by myself. And exactly. any major plumbing or anything like that, or we had to get the electric panel changed out. Like we hired electricians for that type of stuff. But we did a lot of the work themselves. And then third question, no, nobody in my family ever invested in real estate. I didn't know anyone else with a rental property that was investing in real estate.
Wow.
Yeah, I just knew it was something that I always wanted to do and just needed to take the leap.
Yeah, and I'm sure that people are looking at you now and wishing that they got in the same time you did.
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody thought we were crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, thought we were nuts.
But why don't we go ahead and look at the overview of your portfolio right now, and then we'll kind of dive deep into that.
Of course. So right now, our portfolio consists of a triplex, a quadplex, and then a 10-unit apartment building. It's got 9 residential units and 1 commercial space. That's what the portfolio currently looks like. We sold off 3 of our single families throughout this year. I mean, the market's been great. We had a ton of equity, and we use those sales to kind of fund some of the other purchases.
Gotcha. Okay. And any under contract right now?
We do. We actually have a 6-unit under contract that I've been working on for probably about 7-8 months now. I found that one through a mailer, so pretty interesting on that.
Yeah, got you. Okay. So when you do your mailers, is that how you usually find your properties off market or MLS?
So that's pretty interesting. I'll kind of revert back on that one. So I use Deal Machine to do that. It's an app. So I bought a list from Listverse and basically downloaded that, put it in Deal Machine, started sending out mailers. This guy responded. So nothing crazy. I mean, I haven't really done anything spectacular. Just I heard a ton of people talking about it on Bigger Pockets, and I'm like, oh, I'll start doing that.
Took action and start working.
Exactly, right? doing the stuff that people won't do.
Yeah. I want to dive a little bit deeper into, so you had 3 single family properties, right?
Correct.
And you turned that into a larger property. Can you kind of describe how you did that and, the equity that was there, how you were able to transfer that into a bigger property?
Yeah. So basically we had the 2 single families. So that first property that we bought that we turned into a rental, the second investment property we bought in 2017. So what we did, this may sound a little complicated, but what we did is we used the HELOC from the first property to buy the second property. We bought the second property. It was actually way too nice. So we moved into our first investment property and rented out our first house because we did what every newbie does and they over improve. So we moved into that one and we refinanced, put it in our name, and we took out a HELOC on that property. So there was a ton of equity built in. So we were able to get $85,000 home equity line of credit on that to go and buy a couple other properties. So that's kind of how we did that. But this year, basically, what we did is we had those 2 rental properties, and we decided once we got this 10-unit under contract, that we needed to sell them. I didn't have the money to buy this 10-unit deal, but I had tons of equity inside my 2 properties. So what we did is called a 1031 like-kind exchange. So what that does is that gives you the ability to sell your properties and take your profits tax-free as long as you invest it in another investment property that's equal to or greater than the total of the sale. So those 2 properties sold for a combined of $640,000, $320,000 each, and we were able to 1031 exchange $143,000 of that tax-free towards the down payment of the 10-unit apartment building.
Wow. Okay, so essentially that first property bought you a second property, and those 2 properties, so the down payment on the first property technically got you into a 10-unit apartment.
Yeah, so the first property, I think we put $10,000 down because we got an FHA 3.5%. He locked that, bought the next one. He locked that. That $85,000 bought us my house that I'm currently sitting in now and my triplex. Then 2 years later, we cash out refinanced both of those properties, paid off the home equity line of credits. We got about $25,000 extra with the cash out refinance, and that bought our single family that we bought last year during the pandemic in April. So that one property has bought me like 5 properties.
Wow. And that's all it takes is one property. That's all it takes. That is awesome. I kind of want to get into a little bit how you structure your deals. So do you have a property that we can dive into?
Yeah. When you mean structure, you're looking at, like, do you mean like numbers wise? Like what am I looking at when I'm trying to buy it?
Yeah. So structure. Yeah. So at first I kind of want to start from step 1. So you found the property, go into a little bit of how you were able to finance the property. You have a seller carryback financing tactic that I really want to get into, and then basically after you get it, what do you do to improve rents? What do you do to get it up? Turn every unit over and get it up to standards.
Of course. So I've got a pretty good one. So one of the reasons why we moved to where we are now, we're in Carroll County, Maryland, is because there is a lot of older multifamilies in the area. There's a lot of duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes around here. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to buy some multifamily. So we moved up here closer to all that. So I was on Craigslist one day and I saw a guy selling a 13 unit portfolio here in Westminster. And I reached out to him. I said, hey, tell me about this. So we chatted a little bit, and I was traveling at the time. So my wife and my real estate agent went and scoped out all the properties, and 2 of them didn't get bought by the investors. So this one was on the MLS. It was listed for $250,000. It was a triplex, and it had been on the MLS for over a year. I mean, it was just sitting there. So in the meantime, I kept emailing this seller that I found from Craigslist. Hey, I see your property's still on the market. You want to chat? Next month. Hey, I see your property's on the market. Would you like to chat? Finally, after like 5 or 6 months, this guy was like, yes, I will chat with you. So I met him at Starbucks face to face. This wasn't over the phone or anything.
Yeah.
And basically we talked. I told him I wanted to buy the property, but I asked him, how he got to where he was and everything else, because that's what I want to do. And I basically told him, like, look, $250 is way too much. I can pay $210. And I said, you don't have to give me an answer now, but I'm 100% buyer at $210. And he told me he'd have to get back with me. And about the next day, he had a partner in the deal. The next day, he decided, hey, he wanted to move forward. So I was able to get $40,000 off just by sitting down with the guy. So throughout that process, I knew he had another property. So we did the inspection and a couple things came up, and I wanted a discount. But I said, hey, look, I'll still pay you what you want for this property. But you have to sell me your other one down the road at X. I said,
and that was a multifamily as well.
That's a 4-unit property.
Okay.
So I said, hey, I won't ask for a discount on this one, but I want the other one. I want you to guarantee you're going to sell me the other one, and I want it at this price. And that took him like 2 or 3 days to think about, but he agreed to it. We kind of got a little thing signed for that, and that got that. So this will kind of be a little long, but I think people are going to learn a lot about this. So with that 3-unit, we ended up getting that for $204,000. He did do some seller concessions and agree to pay 2% of the closing cost. So we financed that conventional. So we had to come up with 25% down on $204,000. So it was like $56,000 plus closing costs. It was like $65,000.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we used the HELOC money from our first investment property. That's how we bought this. At the time, there was 2 tenants paying $800 a piece. They were brothers. And there was a 3rd unit that was empty. So me and my wife, again, sweat equity. We went in there. We painted everything. I like to call it smart renovations. So we painted. We changed the light fixtures. Changed the toilets. We put down some easy like peel and stick tiles that you can grout like on the floors. Very nice. Also, they don't crack and moisture resistant for anyone out there, looking for cost effective renovation tips. But in a nutshell, we were able to spend about $15,000. We rented out one of the 2 bedrooms for $950. We got $1,200 for the other one and $1,200 for the other one. So this took about, 4 months. The 2 tenants, I went to them right off the bat and said, hey, look, your rent is way low for the area. We're going to need to increase it, but I'm going to give you, 3 months to decide if you want to stay or not, find a new place. But at 3 months, it's going to this. So one of them moved out in a month. The other one we had some issues with, but in a nutshell, we were able to get it up. So that property we spent $15,000 on, wow. And that property 6 months later, fully rented, appraised for $350,000.
Jeez.
So we basically, increased the value $135,000 more than what we had into the deal.
Yeah, and obviously, market trends that helps a ton too. But you went in there, you did exactly what you had to do, the sweat equity piece. And when you find a property that's mismanaged and the rents aren't to market, I mean, that alone is a huge way to increase value without doing anything else.
Exactly. Yep. I knew there was at least $400 a unit in rents increase. And based on the market, I didn't need to put granite countertops in. I didn't need to rip the kitchens out and put brand new cabinets in. Just some fresh paint, some new vinyl plank flooring, changing out the light fixtures, painting all the trim, just make it clean. I mean, you would be surprised what people have on the market that's not clean, that's not fresh.
Exactly. And another thing that I saw from your rental property couple Instagram is re-glazing the tub, if the tub's fine and, it's ugly colors. That alone makes a huge difference. It's insane. Exactly.
It looks fresh. It looks clean. Same old tub.
Couple $100.
Couple $100, re-glaze it. Because you know what most people want to do? They want to rip it out.
Exactly.
Then you're looking at $2,500 for a plumber. And then you're like, well, since it's ripped out, might as well do tile. The might as wells are going to take all your profits, So smart renovations. So bam, exactly. I have $150,000 in equity. I'm doing a BRRRR. I'm gonna cash out refinance this.
There you go.
So we got a new loan for $255,000. I'm in this for $225 now, with my closing costs and everything else. So I get my $65,000 back from my down payment. I got my renovation costs back, and I got another $25,000 back. So now I'm ready. I've got cash. I'm ready to go buy this 4-unit. So I go to the guy and say, hey, I'm ready to buy. During that time, I'd already done the inspections, everything else. He wanted initially $330,000. I talked him down to $285,000. But at the time, I didn't want to spend all my money. I was like, man, I need some more deals. So what I did is I asked him if he would carry $85,000 as seller finance for 3 years. So we got $85,000 seller finance for 3 years at 3% interest. Wow. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. So, how did that impact your down payment?
Hugely. So, in the bank's eyes, we only needed a loan for $200,000. So, at 25%, I needed $50,000 instead of $72,000. So, I saved $22,000 just by asking him to hold some of it.
So, when you go to the bank and you close, right, at the settlement, the bank doesn't tell you that you need, X amount, the 25% down at the table. They won't hold that from you from title, or is that something that the seller, title, and you talk about without the bank knowing?
Well, everything is legal, so make sure you have a real estate attorney taking care of your contract, taking care of these loans, because what happens is the seller gets in the second position on the loan. So the bank's in first position, and then it's basically a lien against the property for that $85,000. So if I were to foreclose on the bank, the seller would still have some right after the bank to get his money back.
Gotcha.
But there's enough equity in the deal to make that work. So the seller was willing to hold $85,000 at 3%, which is nothing. We were able to get into the property and get a mortgage on the property for $150,000. And over the last year, we fixed up all 4 units. We turned them over. We did the same thing kind of. We went to all the tenants and said, hey, look, the rents are $750 a month. They need to be more like $1,200. Let's meet somewhere in the middle. Let's, if we could get $900, like we would sign a new year lease, but everyone decided they wanted to leave. So that's fine. But we didn't raise their rents right away. We let everybody move out, within 3 months, as they wanted to, one at a time, and fixed up the units. So now that property, which was getting about $3,400 a month, is currently grossing $5,200 a month.
Just by going in, figuring out that it's mismanaged, going in there, raising it to market rents, and fixing it up for the tenants. That's exactly what sweat equity and what a smart investor would do to add value without having to do too much. That's extremely smart. I want to ask, because the seller carry, seller finance that you do that lowers your down payment, I think that's going to be extremely valuable for those that don't have enough money to put that 20-25% down. This is a way to get creative in your creative financing so that you can get into a property. I want to ask you, because you've obviously done this before and you have experience, do you find it easier to do that on larger deals, or do you think it, relatively speaking, if it depends on the owner?
So it 100% depends on the owner and their situation. Like the 10 unit, for instance, I had asked and was really trying to get some seller financing there. But the woman, she owned the building free and clear. She sold off a bunch of other properties throughout the last couple of years. And she just wanted a nice fat check and to ride off into the sunset and go hang out on the beach. That's what she wanted to do. So it didn't work out that way. But here's the thing. If you're buying from older landlords that have been in the game for 10, 15, 25 years, they've been through all this. They know all this for the most part. If they only have 1 or 2 properties, maybe not. But anyone that's got 4 or 5 properties or has had 4 or 5 properties, they know the game. And most of the time, they're looking at an extremely large tax bill. And I don't know, but most real estate investors don't really like Uncle Sam taking their money. So you're looking at it as a way to help them, as a way to help you. And you also want to sell them on helping you as well. Like, hey, I'm helping you. I'm willing to buy your property, but you know, I need you to help me too, and make them want to help you out. And I think that's really been the biggest thing is I've made personal connections with every single one of these sellers. I've spent 6 months, 9 months, a year. It took me a year to buy this 10-unit apartment building of talking with the seller, having conversations, going and meeting them in person. Like now all of a sudden they're not just selling to some guy. They're selling to Patrick and Danielle, you know, the people that are trying to, you know, make a life for themselves and grow a real estate portfolio that they can live financially free on and do what they want. And that's really the key.
Exactly. And you're finding the problem that they have and you're finding how to fix that and make them so that they're comfortable with going through with the deal. And I think a lot of people go into it and try not to get personable. And that's when landlords think that, oh, they're just trying to, you know, cut me dry. They're just trying to take all my money, get it for less as possible, and you know, just trying to screw over the tenants. When in fact, a lot of majority of investors are not like that. We're trying to make better quality housing for the tenants in the area. So I think that's huge right there, and I think that's a huge point right there that you have to get personable with your with the people that you're buying for, and they're going to take you more seriously, and then they're going to want to they're going to want to work with you more as well. Yeah,
they 100%. That's the key, because sometimes the sellers can see themselves in you.
Exactly.
You know, they're saying, all right, I like this guy, and you spent the time building the relationship. You spent the time, and the biggest thing is you just have to ask. Like, I think everyone is so scared to just ask. Like, look, you're either selling or you're being sold. So you need to ask when you want something or you're trying to get something. You just need to ask. The worst thing that could ever happen is that you're in the same position that you are now. Like,
exactly.
The same position. I mean, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, a guy or girl could tell you to go F yourself, you know, screw you, whatever. But hey, they could say yes. And I've had 2 people say yes.
Yeah.
So,
and if it was easy, everyone would do it.
People are scared. Yeah.
Exactly. This is some deep stuff we're getting into right now, everybody. No, but this is awesome. This is awesome. So, so you got the 10 unit. You did the 1031 exchange in the HELOC. You got the 10 unit, right? You sold off your properties. What's next for you? You got the 6 unit obviously under contract right now. The goal is to close that. What's the goal for you moving forward? And have you, if you have any 2022 goals yet? What are your goals moving into next year?
Yeah, so we're recording this day before New Year's. So yeah, anyone out there who is looking to accomplish their goals for next year, you should have your goals and your plan already lined out before New Year's Day. You know, if you're going to be serious about accomplishing them. So next year we should be closing on this 6 unit in February sometime. But I'm actively looking for deals right now. I was actually on the phone with a guy yesterday that I speak with every month, and he's got a 25 and a 10 unit around here that we're going to go look at and possibly put some offers in. So we have a couple goals for next year. The biggest one is we are looking to get to 70 units.
70.
That's
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so throwing out a big goal, you know, you got to dream big.
Yep.
You know, our goal for this year was 30. We ended up with 17, but I got 6 under contract, and I had 13 under contract to hit that 30. But the seller was giving me some bogus information, and we decided to back out because it just didn't feel right. So we were there. So I think next year, 70 units is going to be attainable. That should get us somewhere close to $30,000 a month in cash flow.
Yeah.
and roughly about $5 million in real estate. So I've got a couple of different analytics that I'm looking at. The ultimate goal is to get around $30,000 a month cash flow. So whether that's, and I know I could do that with 70 residential rental units based on the cash flow that I'm projecting per door. So I break it down. I mean, I really get deep. I'm breaking this down in, I need to know how much I'm making per door, what my unit cost is.
Well, that's important. That's important to dive deep into that and get serious with those, because you can set off a big goal like I want to get 70 units by the end of the year. But if you don't have those monthly, daily, weekly, tracks to kind of keep yourself accountable and to keep track of it, then you're never going to reach that. And, you might, but it's just going to help. It's just going to help tremendously. Oh, yeah, of course.
And, if I don't hit 70 next year, but I hit 65 or 50, I'm going to be ecstatic,
Exactly. And that's what I say too, because on my Instagram page, chasing_rentals, it says I have a goal to get 50 rental units by the age of 28. I'm 24 right now. So that's not, I don't want to just go out and buy anything, I don't want to buy something that doesn't make sense just because I can get it under contract and I can get it. The goal for that is I'm trying to set I did exactly what you did. I set my number for 50. I have my actionable steps for weekly and monthly and everything that I need to do in order to get there. And if I fail, I'm so much closer to where I want to be than where I was. And I think that's huge for goal setting. It's okay if you fail. You're a lot more closer to your goals than you think, than when you started.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I actually didn't hit any of my goals I set for 2021.
But you had an amazing year as well. So
amazing year. Exactly. Yeah. I had, there was no chance I ever thought that I was going to be able to buy a 10-unit apartment building this year. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going to get the money from. I was so nervous about doubling the amount of tenants I had. Like, oh my gosh, this is going to be crazy. I got to go through. How do you get a commercial loan?
Exactly.
How does a commercial appraiser go? What's the inspection process on something like this? I'm putting cameras down, plumbing tubes, and all kinds of stuff. I had no idea what was going on.
Exactly.
But I knew if I spent the money to go through the process and didn't end up buying it, it was well worth it, because now I know. So now this time I'm like, I got this. This is no problem. Like,
exactly. I feel like you hit like a new tier now. Like you were in the single, like 1 to 4 units, and you're comfortable. You stepped outside your comfort zone. You're in the 10 unit now. Now you're like, okay, 25 is the next step. And now I feel comfortable with 10, 15. Let's go to 25. You know what I mean? And I feel like you slowly graduate. And as you do that, you realize that it's literally the same. If anything, it's probably a little easier to manage a 10 unit than a duplex, just because you have all those tenants and everything under one roof in one place. And it'd be a lot better than spreading everything out and having 5 duplexes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at some point, I'm going to be selling my triplex. I'm going to be selling my quadplex. They'll go to a great investor. They go to someone starting out, I'm sure, or someone to add to portfolio, and I'll 1031 exchange those into bigger deals or invest in someone else's syndication or something like that. It's all about the return on your money, because look, people get passionate about real estate and people fall in love with their properties and everything else. But at the end of the day, this is a business. You have to look at it as a business mindset. If you want to be a hobby investor and hopefully one day pay your mortgage, that's great. I think everyone out there should buy a duplex, triplex, or quadplex and use the cash flow to pay off their primary residence and live way more financially free than anyone else. But in the grand scheme of things, if you want, $10K a month cash flow, you got to look at this as a business. And what's the return on my money that I'm getting? And is it better spent left in a deal? Is it better spent reinvested into something else that's going to make more cash flow? And that's how I look at this. And that's how I've really been able to step my game up, is because I'm not holding on to these properties because I have some sentimental value into them. Like, oh, this was the first house that me and my wife bought. Like, we thought we were going to keep that forever.
Yeah.
You know, like it has sentimental value, and it did. But you know what? I don't miss it that much. Like, I like the checks that are coming in from my apartment building a lot more than the sentimental value. I can drive by it like, hey, how's it going? I remember you. Like, you know?
Exactly. And if you were to keep it, if anything, it'd be holding you back from reaching your goals of where you wanted to be. So
exactly. 100%.
So I want to talk a little bit more about management. What kind of management do you have place right now? From my understanding, you manage yourself, correct?
True. Yep,
okay.
We self-manage.
So how has that process been? What is your thought process as far as moving it into a management company and or starting your own and doing that as long as others? I just want to know because, there's mixed feelings about it. I mean, personally, my wife and I, we tried to do manage ourselves, and we figured out we are not those type of people. So we went straight to, we did a house hack, and we had to manage property manager the whole time. So I kind of want to get into, with you and your portfolio. When was the time that you were like, let's take this on? How easy has it been? What have you been having to do on a regular basis? How long it takes you to do, maybe monthly? And then when do you plan on moving into new management?
Man, all great questions. And it's really funny. So I actually spoke to a property management company yesterday to talk about possibly moving my properties under management. We're not going to do it at this particular moment.
Yeah.
Just because when you screen your tenants right, when you have a nice property that's high quality where things aren't breaking and you do all the right things before someone moves in, you're really not getting the phone calls that everybody dreads at 2 a.m. There's a leaky toilet and all this other BS. Like, it's fear, and people need a reason to not do it, right? People need a reason to tell everybody else why they're not taking action and following their dreams. And they're all, oh, I'm worried about this, worried about that. All right. At the end of the day, it's really not that much work up front. I'll tell you, the biggest time suck and the thing that really irritates me the most is placing a new tenant, because a lot of people out there, a lot of prospective tenants out there don't respect your time. This one property, the 10 unit is an hour away from my house. So I'll set up, 5 or 6 appointments, in a day to go down there, drive an hour. One person will show up, confirm everything else, then you're sitting there and you're like, hey, are you coming? Oh, sorry. Ran over for work, or whatever excuse they give you when they had all day to just tell you, that they're not going to be able to show up. So that's really been the most frustrating part about the entire process.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, hey, if something breaks, like I've got contractors and stuff that can go over there. I know how to do stuff. I can go over there and take care of it. All that stuff's easy. Collecting rent, getting a lease signed, easy. The worst part is placing the tenants and the time suck on that.
Placing the tenants.
And what I found out is the property management company, since COVID, has been doing contactless tours. So basically what they do is she told me they have this box called a CenturyLink box, which is, I think, the same one that real estate agents use.
Same one.
You can have a card, or you can have access from your phone. So basically, you have the app, and I can set a code that, lasts for 30 minutes to unlock the box. You send it to the prospective tenant who wants to do a tour after you've gotten their driver's license and some other details from them. And you send them a link. When they get there, the box hooks up to their phone via the internet, unlocks the key. They get to go in and take a look. Bam, close it up. You're good to go. So the first thing I did was went onto the CenturyLink website and I bought 2 boxes, because the most time-sucking and thing that I hate the most about managing my own properties, I just figured out the solution to by calling a property manager, telling them what my problem is, and they gave me all the information.
Wow. And I think with COVID too, I think that's going to be huge in moving into contactless showings. I've heard it before where they have the code on the door and you can program it on your phone and just give them a different code each time. That way you don't have to have the box. But what I guess the batteries last a long time in those, so you probably wouldn't have to worry about those at all.
I thought you would need like Wi-Fi in the house or something like that. That's why I never did it. I thought like I needed to have Wi-Fi. I really didn't know how it worked. And of course I'm like, oh, I'm not big enough for that. Like, and that was really the biggest thing. But sooner or later, I will be doing it. I'll consider it even more. Or they even asked me, like, why don't you start your own property management company? And I've thought about that because I quit my W-2 this year, and I'm able to do a lot of this stuff. So, what would be good for me is I'd be able to charge my hours back to myself through my company, which would lower my taxable income and liabilities and all that kind of stuff. So that's something that I've really considered. I'd also love to manage some other people's properties. I mean, why not take, 7 to 10% and take care of that stuff myself? But right now I'm in growth mode. So I really want to get to that 70 unit level, that cash flow level, and then really decide what I want to do. But I definitely understand and see the benefits to it. And I think it's going to help you scale even more because you're putting that off on a trusted partner, not just somebody else, but a trusted partner. They want you to collect rent every month. They want you to have somebody in there all the time because they're getting a piece of that the whole time.
Exactly. And then at the same time, you're an investor, so you're only going to get more property. So they want to build that relationship with you. I want to point out real quick, you said that you were able to quit your job. You were able to quit your job through real estate, correct?
Yes. So I was able to have the level of comfort and support financially to be able to quit my job.
And that's really came from, because you said that your second property was bought in 2017, I believe. So that's like the last 4 years is really how long it took you to reach that.
Yeah. So just about everything the last 4 years really ramped up to just the last 2 years. Wow. I mean, in just the last 2 years, we bought the triplex, the quadplex, a single family, and the 10 units. So we bought 18 units in the last 2 years.
Wow. And for a lot of people, 18 units would be huge. And now, your goal next year is to get, what's 70 minus 18, 10, 62. 52? 52. Yeah, obviously I can't do math. But no, 50 now 52 in 1 year. And that's the bar now because you've had that experience and you realize that it's more than attainable.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, look, Bigger Pockets is great. If you're looking to get your first deal, scale up to a couple properties, fantastic. You want to go to that next level, you need to start listening to other guys. Michael Blanc, Rod Khleif, stuff about storage units, different things to get your mind thinking about these bigger goals, these bigger deals, talking to people that have quit their jobs, how they did it, how many units they had, and everything else. Because you have to start, if you want to be a multi-million-dollar investor and buy big properties, you got to start thinking like one. You got to start acting like one. You got to start consuming information as much as possible so you feel comfortable even considering it and then going after it and then making it happen.
Exactly. And they say that you are the average you're the average of the closest 5 friends that you have or something like that. I may have just butchered that.
No, that's true in a way. Yeah. I think you're an average. To me, it's more of the media you consume. So, if you're just, watching 90 Day Fiance and Real Housewives all the time, you got drama all in your life. And that's probably what you love, But me,
you're HGTV, huh?
Yeah, no, not even that. I actually don't watch any TV. I just consume podcast, and YouTube. That's pretty much it. But it's all investing related. It's all personal growth related. It's all business related. That's the only stuff I put in my brain. Yeah. So when opportunities come across, I can see it differently. I can see different angles and look at things a little differently. Not to say that I don't have fun, but the media and the stuff that I'm, constantly consuming, I think is the biggest part of that.
Yeah, and right now where you want to be, and you're preparing yourself for it. So that's exactly what that's doing. If you're dedicated to it, some people are dedicated to, going to the gym. That's why they're in there every single day. It's the same thing, but just have to do with real estate. So I want to ask you too, when you plan to grow to that 70 units, are you planning to kind of stick around in your area in Maryland as well, or are you looking to grow out of state? And then what kind of systems do you think you'll have in place for that? Will you hire out management then?
Yeah, so if I go out of state, 100%, I will hire out management. For sure. Won't be able to do that. Right now, that's where I'm looking. I really want to grow within a 2-hour radius of where I live. That's where I feel most comfortable, especially if I'm going to start, going after deals that are $1 million, $2 million. I really want to focus on the area that I know, knock that down, see how that goes first. But I am actively looking in like Pennsylvania, Virginia, a little bit further out. Yeah. I just don't have that level of comfort, and it's because I haven't went and looked at those areas. I've researched some, but I need to go fly out there. I need to go meet some property managers. If anyone out there is investing, in Kentucky or North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, anywhere in the Midwest, and they've got, a decent amount of property and got connections, like please DM me on Instagram and let's chat. I'm willing to fly out and meet anybody and go look at their rental portfolio and all that and make some connections out there. So I'd love to do that.
That is at Rental Property Couple on Instagram. It's him and his wife. So with that, with growing obviously going on podcasts, your Instagram, how are you growing your network in order to grow yourself?
Yeah. So, I go to real estate meetups. So I do that. I go to local real estate meetups, meet people, meet investors. We've got our Instagram that, people are always reaching out and I'm always meeting people. That's how we met, through Instagram. Yeah. So I'm always doing that. I also started a podcast myself. It's called the Real FI Podcast with my partner, James Rippion. We actually met at a syndication meetup. I think sometime in 2019. And then he invited me to his real estate investors meetup, and that's where I met a bunch of people, and we kind of have aligned goals and everything else. So we started a podcast so we could talk to like-minded people and network. So I'm actively putting myself out there on a daily basis to meet and talk to more like-minded people, because in my network at home and my friends and family and all that, I don't really have anyone that's doing anything remotely close to the level that I'm trying to be at.
Exactly. Well, you set so high, it's standards for yourself. For everyone, the podcast, his podcast will be located in the show notes, so everyone can go in there and they'll be able to have a link to go check that out when that comes out. By the time this airs, it will be out, so you guys can check 100%. That out. Those two guys are awesome. James is another person I definitely want to get on the podcast as well. He has huge goals as well in his area. So, all right. Well, Patrick, you've been amazing today, and I think you've had so much. I mean, I've learned a lot from this podcast, but we're going to work on getting you out of here. One of the questions I want to ask you to send this off is, what is your why?
Man, so that's a great question. And I think everybody needs to have a good why. So my why is being able to do what I want when I want and not have to worry about how I'm going to do that. And I know that's a little generic or a little big picture, but if you break it down, what that means to me is really being able to live my life the the way I want to, which is being home. I worked for 5 years traveling, 2 weeks a month. And I was away from my wife for over almost a year during that 5 year time frame. We weren't home, and away from my friends and family and everything else. And I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be home every day. I want to sleep in my bed every day. I want to be around my dogs every day. And we like to vacation. We like to do things like that. And I want to be able to do that. And I want to not be, a slave to a corporate job, to someone who thinks of me as a number and not a person. Not saying that my previous employer wasn't great, because they helped me get to where I am today. But I think a lot of people feel like, sometimes kind of hopeless in how they can change things. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be someone who could set an example for other people, that if they work hard, if they put in the time, the effort, and the work, that they can achieve financial freedom and achieve their goals. And that's really my why: to live life on my own terms, to be able to do, what I want when I want. And that's why I get up every day. That's what motivates me every day. Plus, I really love the art of the deal, putting the deals together, running the numbers, chatting with guys like you. I could sit here for 4 hours, and we could sit here and chat, just because I'm passionate about it. I love it, and I just want to do it every day.
Yeah, that's powerful, and it's crazy how I've asked. I've recorded multiple podcasts so far, and it's not funny, but it's just interesting to see that a typical person would probably say, "Oh, landlord's out to get money," but literally every person that I've had on this podcast that invests in real estate, successful, just like yourself, never says anything monetary reasons. It's all time. It's time freedom, being able to, like you said, do what you want when you want it, and it's all about family and just being able to live your life how you want, and exactly what you said, not be a slave to the corporate. So no, I think that's great. Next question I want to ask you is, it doesn't have to be long out or anything. If you met an investor today that has no properties, just getting started, what is the first thing that you would tell them to do?
House hack.
Yeah, that's the first thing I was thinking too. Yeah, no, 100%. I think house hacking is extremely powerful, and it allows you to get into, whereas if you bought one property with 20% down, you could do a house hack and get another property with probably not that much off. So I think the money that you use putting into a house hack will get you into your second, third, fourth.
And see, the thing is, I didn't even know about that originally.
Oh, you didn't?
No. And if I probably could have talked my wife into doing something like that back at 26 when we were first starting out. But now there's not a chance that would happen. So, but if I would have house hacked, I'd probably be somewhere close to that 50, 70, 100 units by now.
Yeah.
In 2 or 3 years, you could get, 12 units. And if each property is cash flowing like $2,500, you'd be, or 2,000. You would best be financially free in 3 to 4 years house hacking.
Exactly. When you were listening to the Bigger Pockets and everything back then, is that what they called it? House hacking still?
They did, but there just wasn't that many people doing it. It wasn't as popular as it is now. Like now it's so popular.
It's insane.
BRRRR was big.
Yeah.
And all of that. I'm sure there was people doing house hacking, but it wasn't something that I thought I was even able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of standard. Now a lot of people are getting into it, and now it's funny because because I'm a real estate agent here in Maryland, and I have a couple buddies that'll come to me and say, "Hey, I want to live in one unit, get a multifamily, live in one unit, rent out the others." And I said, "Oh, you want a house hack?" And they say, "What's that?" So it's just funny.
It is, and honestly, if I go to sell my triplex and quadplex, or when I go to do that, it will probably be at a turnover when I have an empty unit. Because I know that's the biggest thing that stops so many people, is that people want to sell the property when it's fully leased up.
Exactly.
But I actually would have one of the units empty and just market it to people that want a house hack. For one, it'd be their first property. It'd be their first property, and all they're looking to do is live rent-free or close to it. So they probably pay more than an investor would on their first deal.
That's
not that I would be taking advantage of anyone, but I would be maximizing the situation. And I would be able to probably get more money, help somebody out get into their first deal and change their life. And it would be a win-win situation for both of us.
Exactly. You wouldn't be taking advantage of them at all. And I think, honestly, it would open up the door to so many more people, because if you put that on there and, it's on the market, and then someone goes to a realtor and says, what does that mean that I can live in one unit and rent out the others? What does that mean, the description? Well, that's just going to open the door, and they're going to learn more and be like, oh, I do want to do that. So in the end, I think that's a smart tactic to get those sold for sure, because getting an investor, that would be smart as well. But with a house hacker, it's going to make more sense to live in one unit if it's at a higher purchase price.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, perfect. Well, on to the next one. What source of education helped you kind of get to the point where you were at? Whether it be books, podcasts, mentorship, all the above. What's kind of helped you on your journey?
So the biggest thing would definitely be BRRRR and the BRRRR forum. I mean, I can't really stress that enough. Like, it is free. There's free information out there. YouTube has helped a lot too. There's guys like Meet Kevin, who a couple years ago was huge. He was all really real estate related. You can go back and watch he's got a ton of great videos. But BRRRR has been absolutely huge. I mean, I've got a ton of their books. I've read all of them. Audio books. That's really been it, man. Just consuming as much information as possible, but everything that you could possibly have a question for or whatever, you can go into the BRRRR forum, type it in, and you'll find years of questions being answered right there. Like, the only thing holding you back really in the education wise is yourself. Like, the information is one Google click away, and you'll have more information than you could read in your entire life on how to make things happen.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that is extremely smart to start young, get educated, take advantage of the bigger pockets, do everything, but it's not going to mean anything unless you take action. So I think that's just as important with that. And lastly, where is the best place for our listeners to find you? I know we touched on it, but just go ahead and list everywhere where they can find you.
Yeah. So the best place to reach out to me is going to be on Instagram at Rental Property Couple. Not the Rental Property Couple, Rental Property Couple. That's going to be the best place. I answer every single DM that someone sends me. If you got a deal you want me to look at, shoot it my way. If you're looking to have a conversation and talk about how you might be able to partner on one of my upcoming deals, or something like that, shoot me a DM. I'd love to talk with you about that. I'm always down to talk real estate, help anybody out that I can. I've got another goal next year to try to help, as many people as I can buy their first property. So yeah, reach out to me on Instagram, and we will definitely be in touch.
Perfect. And I actually met Patrick by DMing him on Instagram, so it is living proof that he responds.
And we did go out and have lunch and a beer.
Did. Yes, we did, and we met
good in person.
Yeah,
so
it's real. So, well, anyways, thank you, Patrick. Thank you so much. You've been great to be on this podcast, and you've offered a ton of value. I really appreciate you being on here, and I'm excited to see where you go next, and I'm excited to see you get to those 70 doors.
That's right. You'll have me back on.
Yeah, of course I will.
Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate the time, and I know you're going to crush your goals in 2022 too.
Thanks, man.